الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يرغب عن ملة إبراهيم إلا من سفه نفسه ولقد اصطفيناه في الدنيا وإنه في الآخرة لمن الصالحين إذ قال له ربه أسلم قال أسلمت لرب العالمين صدق الله العظيم. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, regarding ayat number 130 of Surat al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَمَنْ يَرْغَبُ عَنْ مِلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِلَّا مَنْ سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ, and who will turn away or reject the millat of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the way of or the life that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam left behind, the legacy, who will give up and leave behind the legacy of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Illa man safiha nafsa, except that person who will be sorry for about himself, or who is foolish to his own self, who has made himself or made themselves foolish, and will later on regret such a decision of giving up the legacy that was left behind by Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَلَقَدْ اصْطَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا, and we definitely selected Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam in this worldly life. The selection that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him nubuwah, made him a prophet, gave him risala, made him a messenger, and then gave him imama, made him Imam al-Anbiya, the leader of the prophets and messengers, gave him the title of Imam, and giving him all of these titles and selecting him, this was due to his sincerity. In this dunya, in this worldly life, as human beings, as insan, every single human being is striving and working towards success. As mu'mineen, as believers, we understand that our existence as human beings, we have many different existences as far as worlds are concerned. But the one existence that matters, and which will be a determining factor for the coming marahid and stages in our existence, is our time spent in this dunya, our time spent in this world. As insan, as human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in different worlds, in different marahil, in different stages. We go from one world to another world, from one stage to another stage. Each stage has its own set of requirements, it has its own life. And what is amazing about every stage is that when we get into that stage, the marahid and stages that came before it, we hardly remember anything from it. We hardly remember anything from the stages that came before. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in alami arwah, a realm of souls. It was a different world. We remember very little from that stage, even though that stage was very, 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 very long time. It was a very long time. In Alam Yarwah, in the realm of souls. It was not days or months or years. It was in thousands of years. The real time, we don't even know how long it was. From Alam Yarwah, the realm of souls, we came into the first realm of this dunya, the first stage of this world, which is the womb of the mother. Very little we remember of that stage. It's a different world. Or pretty much we don't remember anything from that stage once we come into this dunya, into this world. Then we have the marhala of this dunya, we have the stage of this world. And this world teaches us many, many things. One is that the reality of this dunya, the reality of this world is, no matter how much you struggle and how much you suffer, if at the end you succeed, all of the suffering and struggles are forgotten and they're worth it. It's the reality of this dunya. Whatever struggles we go through, once we get to the end and it is success at the end, so then all the marahid and stages before it, whatever sacrifices we had to give, it's all forgotten. This is the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created insan or human beings with, that we tend to forget. We may not remember so much from our school time or our young time. That's also another thing with the marahil and stages of this dunya. Every time you go to the next level of maturity, as you start progressing in your maturity, the earlier stages start to get forgotten. You start to forget the early stages. Very few of us here may remember what we did when we were 1 year old or 2 years old or 5 years old. Very little we may remember of that time, if anything. And that is the reality of this dunya. On the other side, if we do not succeed, even if we had enjoyment, but at the end we fail, it makes all the enjoyment bitter. That is the reality of this dunya. That is the reality of this world. On one side, we have the example that majority of us go through. You have the schooling, you have our careers. Not 1 day, not 1 week, not 1 year. How many years we spend schooling and exams, difficult exams, hard exams. Many nights are sometimes spent awake trying to understand the material. But in the end, once you get that degree and you get your position of success and you realize that it was all worth it, then all that difficulty and hardship, a person not only forgets, but they kind of enjoy it. It becomes an enjoyment. But yes, it was definitely worth it. On the other side, you take the example of those who may be criminals. They may want to have fun, waste their time. They're committing crimes. And some of them have these elaborate plans of how they're going to commit those crimes. During the process of it, they're very excited. They have this mind working, and they come up with plots to outsmart the authorities to do whatever kind of crime they want to do. But when they get caught, or they get busted, as they say, once they get caught, and that bitterness of the reality of their sentence dawns on them, then even that moment of enjoyment becomes very bitter. There are those who break the law. It becomes very fun to drive, to go speeding. A person is speeding, enjoying, he's having fun driving his car very fast beyond the speed limit, and all of a sudden they get pulled over. All that fun you just had, speeding, all of it is turned bitter. Why? Now you're looking at a ticket, you're looking at hardship after hardship. For those few moments you had a little bit of fun, but after that, what benefit was that few moments of fun? It was nothing. In fact, it was made bitter by the situation that came after it, the results of those actions. And that is the reality of this dunya in this dunya. That's the reality of this worldly life in this worldly life. The same will apply when we leave this dunya, when we leave this world. There are many who strive to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really it is a struggle. It's not easy. It's not easy taking care of the salah 5 times a day on its time. It's not easy avoiding sins. It's not easy staying away from your shahawat and your desires. It's not easy controlling yourself not to obey the whispers of shaitan. It's not easy always fulfilling the righteous deeds and being very, very vigilant and very, very careful. These things are not easy. Along with that, various tests. You're tempted to fall into haram versus halal. Maybe even what is halal may not have the kind of good results that you're expecting. But with all of that, all these difficulties, the hardships that a person puts himself through, in the end, they at least have a good life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises a decent, good life. Even in the Quran, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِّن ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, in Surah An-Nahl, whosoever does righteous deeds, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِّن ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى, whosoever does righteous deeds, be it a man or a woman, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن, with the condition that they have iman, that they are believers, فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً, we will definitely, without a doubt, give them a life that is a pure life, a good life. It'll be decent. A person will have enjoyment, spiritual enjoyment, happiness. That is what everyone is working for, to be happy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give that enjoyment that comes in this dunya. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us very clearly, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ أَسْلَمَ وَرُزِقَ كَفَافًا وَقَنَّعَهُ اللَّهُ بِمَا آتَاهُ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us that definitely successful, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ, definitely successful is that person. Man aslama, that person who accepted Islam. وَرُزِقَ كَفَافًا, and they had sufficient sustenance to live their life. They did not become beggars, or they were just content and happy with whatever sustenance was given to them. فَقَنَّعَهُ اللَّهُ بِمَا آتَاهُ, and they were satisfied with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them. So that person is successful. So we've been told very, very clearly regarding what is success and happiness in this dunya. And that is hasana, that is what is good. This is also from the millat of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us again in Surah An-Nahl regarding Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, وَآتَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا, and we gave him in this dunya hasana, that which is good. And this is what every believer, we as believers, we even make dua in very important times. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا, oh Allah, give us from this world hasana, that which is good. And that which is good Sometimes you have to make an effort for it. And sometimes this good is not what we may perceive as good, but it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows what is best for us. And that is what is mentioned to us and shown to us in the millat of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he was put through such conditions that on the apparent level it seemed that these were difficult or hard, or there was something that made him suffer. But the end result, he was given the best of this dunya, or that which is good in this dunya, that which is good in this world. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us here in this ayah of Surat al-Baqarah, فَلَقَدْ اصْطَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا, and we definitely chose him in this dunya. We gave him a position in this dunya. We selected him in this dunya, selected him in this world. We gave him a very, very special honor. And that is what we human beings, we work for. Honor and respect. This is a very integral part of the life of every single human being. There is no human being that wants to be disgraced in any way. You can ask any human being, even those who may have done some of the most foolish things in their life, why they did it. They were looking for some kind of respect. They were trying to prove to someone, if nothing else, they were trying to prove to themselves something. And that is the element of respect. Some see respect in political power, so they'll go after political power. Some will see respect in their degrees and in education, so they will go and seek that. Some will see respect in immense wealth, and they'll go and seek that. Some will see respect in having connections and friends, so they'll go and seek that. Some will see respect in having followers, and now in the 21st century, it's not like how it used to be in the past where you had to physically talk to someone. Now you can get followers. You may not even know them or never have met them, but they'll follow you. You'll have followers. So some see respect in followers. Some see respect in views. That they make some product or make some video and how many people view it. Some will see respect in their health, how healthy they are, their muscles, their strength. So they'll see that as a means of respect. Whatever avenue of respect we may see. What is very clear is that real respect and honor is in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man kana yuridu al-izzata falillahi al-izzatu jami'a. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran very clearly, anyone who is seeking honor and respect and power, so then real honor and respect is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these avenues that we may see as a means of respect, they're fine. So long as our end goal, our intention and our niyyah is to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with it. Then yes, they'll become successful. They'll become a means of success for us in this dunya and success in the akhirah. Success in this worldly life and success in the hereafter. But if our intention is something else, then that can become our destruction and our downfall in this dunya, in this world, and in the hereafter. So rather than making an effort to impress people, try and make an effort to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever skills we have, whatever gifts we have, whatever bounties we have, whatever blessings we have, just like how Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he laid down a legacy that in every aspect of his life, he used whatever blessings and bounties Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on him. He used them and utilized them to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is very, very important for us to understand also. That along with whatever life we have and the demands of life, we should also be aware of what are the demands of my deen. What does my Islam demand of me? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demand of me? وَلَقَدْ اصْطَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in ayat number 130 that definitely we selected Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam in this dunya, in this world. وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, and in the hereafter he'll be with the salihin, with the righteous. A role model that people will follow, that everyone in this dunya will follow. So in the hereafter he'll be given a very, very high and great position. إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ. Remember, and important was the time when his Rabb, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him, Aslim, submit yourself. Accept Islam, submit. Ayat number 131. قَالَ أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I submit myself to Rabbul Alameen, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the aspect and the concept of submission, where we spoke about slavery and the reality of slaves. There used to be a time where there was slavery. And there were people who used to own slaves. And the condition of a slave was such that they did not have their own will. They were not free to do what they wanted, to say what they wanted, to go where they wanted. They were completely under the control of their master. They did not have any position in society. That is what slavery was. The position of the slave was that position that was what the position of their master had in society. So if their master was a prominent figure in society, so that slave was also looked at very differently than a slave that was just working under some random master. If there was someone who was the chief of a tribe or had a political status and he had slaves, or he had particular slaves that he gave more importance to than other slaves, so those slaves in that society also had some position. And that was at the time of slavery. And the reality of slavery is that we human beings, insan, as human beings, whenever we own something, especially human beings, if we own other humans, as the sense of slavery is concerned, or the sense of slavery was concerned, then we human beings develop arrogance. That's why the masters who used to have slaves were very, very arrogant people, most of them, not all of them, but most of them. And that arrogance would lead to dhulm and oppression, and eventually they used to oppress their slaves. Not all, but the vast majority. This was the common norm of that time. And since the slave had no say in society, so even if they were oppressed, no one bothered about it. No one made an issue of it. Until the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the coming of this beautiful deen of Islam, then it brought about a change in that society to try and abolish the slavery. But what we understand is that is the case of human masters and human slaves. When it comes to our beautiful deen of Islam and we accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Rabb, our Rabb, Rabbul Alameen, and we submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has given us the title Ibadur Rahman, the slaves of Ar-Rahman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not need His creation. He does not need servants and slaves and does not need His creation whatsoever. But again, this is the concept and the aspect of Khaliq and Makhluq, the creator and his creation. That the greatest position was given in the creation to those human beings who had submitted themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who had accepted Islam and become Muslim. Can imagine what position they have in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is amazing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is Ar-Rahman. That is why He has given this title of Ibadur Rahman, the slaves of Ar-Rahman. Because Ar-Rahman is that being who will never ever oppress anything within his creation, even in any way whatsoever. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَظْلِمُ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not even do one atom of oppression with his creation in any way. When it comes to his rahmah, how merciful and kind and loving and benevolent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to his creation, especially to his ibad, especially to those who have submitted themselves to him. And that is a whole another degree of favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this idea of being the ibadur rahman, the slaves of ar-Rahman, that we submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we do not have our own will. This must be made very, very clear. That we submit our will to whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us and told us to do. We do not doubt it, we do not question it. Yes, if we can understand it, that is fine. Study, gain as much ilm as possible. But one should not go about thinking that their ideas or their concepts or the ideas and concepts of humanity or human beings, that they are in any way comparable to the ahkam and commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or that someone can even ever think that we human beings could come up with a system better than the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So this makes it very, very clear for us that that cannot happen, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the most perfect system. So that is part of submission also, accepting, being Muslim. Is that you forego your own ideas. Yes, that whatever ideas I have and whatever I think is right, if what I think is right contradicts the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is in contradiction to Quran and Sunnah, then we must admit that Quran and Sunnah is right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is right, and I am wrong. My ideas are wrong, my thought process is wrong. This is what is submission, complete submission. Then yes, we'll be ibadur rahman. And we'll be given very, very special favors. So this is what is Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. This is the kind of legacy that he left behind for us. And many times he was tested in such a way where it defied even human logic. It even defied his logic. But he did not question. He was ready to submit. When he understood that this is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no questions asked. He didn't sit there and say, let me find out what is the wisdom behind this command. No. He just submitted it. Aslamtu li Rabbil Alameen. He said, I submit myself to Rabbil Alameen. When he was commanded to do hijrah from his people, he did it. When he was commanded to stand against the shirk of his people, he did it. When he was commanded to stand against the most powerful king of that time, he did it. When he was commanded to leave his family in the barren desert, he did it. He was ready to do it, no questions asked. When he was commanded to even slaughter his son, he was ready to do it. Whatever command came, he submitted himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what is Islam. And this is also a lesson for us, that you have been commanded many, many things in your deen. Just submit. Don't try to find a way to, we say in English, don't beat around the bush. Don't try to be smart with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the end, we're only fooling ourselves. This is the essence of Islam. Haqq is right, wrong is wrong. That's very clear. Don't try to play games with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the lesson for us from these ayat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. Inshallah, we'll read one hadith, and then inshallah we will conclude for the night. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال فضلت على الأنبياء بست أعطيت جوامع الكلم ونصرت بالرعب وحلت لي المغانم وجعلت لي الأرض طهورا ومسجدا وأرسلت إلى الخلق كافة وختم بي النبيون وكما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. رواه Muslim. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim, and there are quite a few points in this hadith. Inshallah, we'll try to go over them. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال, Sayyidina Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, he narrates, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, and we should say صلى الله عليه وسلم. So Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, فضلت على الأنبياء بست. I have been given superiority over the Anbiya, over the prophets, over all of the other prophets, with 6 things. Meaning I have been given 6 qualities that are superior to all of the other Anbiya alayhim salam. And the Muhaddithin have mentioned that this hadith, on one side it is talking about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself, but these also extend to the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And I will go over how it extends to that. What are those 6 elements or 6 qualities? And we'll mention those 6 qualities, then we'll try to go over the details. So those 6 qualities, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, أُعْطِيتُ جَوَامِعَ الْكَلِمِ. I have been given جَوَامِعُ الْكَلِمِ. Jawami'ul al-Kalim means that in few words, encyclopedias of information were contained. In the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there are some ahadith that are so profound, they can carry encyclopedias of information. And this is not some 1 or 2 ahadith, but so many of the majority of all the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they're so deep in meaning. And that is why you have a whole field of hadith, of usul al-hadith, and the study of hadith. And we have the muhaddithin, the experts in the hadith. There's so much information in the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Even sometimes a very, very small hadith, few words, but there will be encyclopedias of information in it. So this is أُعْطِيتُ جَوَامِعَ الْكَلِمِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I've been given جَوَامِعُ الْكَلِمِ. The second quality which was given to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam over as superiority over all of the other Anbiya alayhim salam, he says, وَنُصِرْتُ بِالرُّعْبِ. And I have been helped with ru'b. Ru'b, actually, it is a quality that is given, and it's something that's very difficult in terms to explain, but Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had a very, very serious aura, a kind of sense that if his enemies were around him, his enemies used to have a very serious fear of him. It's called ru'b. It's a kind of terror that comes, a kind of fear that comes when you're around a prominent person. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had this amazing aura, this ru'b. And it was mentioned in some places where the Sahaba used to say that almost 1 month or 2 month journey away, if the kuffar were there, they still used to have this ru'b of him, this kind of fear of him. They could not face him, and they were very afraid of him. It's not that he was a mean person in any way, na'udhu billah, or that he was mad or something. No, he was the most kindest, most gentle person you could ever meet. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this ru'b. When he was just there, everyone used to be afraid. And that is just the kind of nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. And I will go back into the details of this. أُحِلَّتْ لِيَ الْمَغَانِمِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that the spoils of war, al-maghanim, they have been made halal for me. I'm able to take the spoils of war. Mali ghanima, they're made halal. For the previous prophets, they were not halal. They were not allowed to take the maghanim. وَجُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ طَهُورًا وَمَسْجِدًا. The whole earth, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that the fourth quality, or the fourth fadila, the fourth superiority, is that the whole world has been made a place of purity and a masjid for me. We can go anywhere in the world, and even if there's no water, you can do tayammum. There was no tayammum for the Prophet or the past. You can do tayammum anywhere in the world. The whole world is pure. And you can pray salah anywhere. It's not that you're restricted to pray salah in one place. No, you can pray salah anywhere. Time of salah comes, you can pray. Or even if you just want to pray, you don't, even in that time of salah, you just want to pray nawafil, you can pray anywhere. وَأُرْسِلْتُ إِلَى الْخَلْقِ كَافَّةً. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said the fifth superiority is that I've been sent to all of creation. To all of the creation I've been sent. Or to all of mankind I've been sent as a prophet. And the sixth superiority, خُتِمَ بِيَ النَّبِيُّونَ, and the prophet, I'm the seal of prophets, meaning that no prophet will come after me. The seal of prophethood. So this is the six superiorities, and we'll go over this hadith in Sahih Muslim, but we'll try and we'll cover them also in relation to us also, the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. What does this really mean for us, and what do these mean in essence? Inshallah, we'll go a little more in detail with this hadith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. الصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم نور قلوبنا بالقرآن وزين أخلاقنا بالقرآن ونجنا من النار بالقرآن وادخلنا في الجنة بالقرآن. اللهم اجعل القرآن لنا في الدنيا قرينا وفي القبر مونسا وعلى الصراط نورا وفي الجنة رفيقا ومن النار سترا وحجابا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.